These weren't the typical symptoms. Next thing I knew, I woke up in the ER. Greetings, fellow survivors, thrivers, and healers. I am Cellcept, founder of Thrivers Inspired Healing, and I hope you all are having a wonderful day. So today I will be speaking on my experience with COVID. Can you believe that? So the interesting thing about this is that I typically don't get sick. Like, despite having lupus and end-stage renal disease, I typically don't get colds, flus, infections, or anything like that, believe it or not. So this one caught me by surprise. And not only that, but the typical symptoms that you hear, like maybe in the media or, you know, amongst your doctor, whatever, these weren't the typical symptoms. So it'll be interesting also to share with you where I suspect I had gotten it from. So let's begin. My first symptoms were very close to just being like a stomach bug. I thought I had a stomach bug. I had I was very tired. I had the bubble guts. I was vomiting. I was also having the runs. I know it's all TMI, but guess what? It is what it is. And I was like, okay, stomach bug, that's kind of weird. Maybe I ate something wrong, whatever. I didn't want to eat, so I was severely reduced in how much food I was taking in. I had a hard time eating. So what I did was I forced myself to have one solid meal a day, as much as I could, and it took me forever because I was so tired. And I had 2 of the supplemental drinks that they give to people who have kidney failure. It's specifically designed for that because of the electrolytes and all that other stuff. So I was having 2 of those a day plus a solid meal, and the supplement is like a liquid drink. And so I noticed that, and I was like, all right. So when I would go to treatment, I told all the nurses and the techs and everything that, yo, I'm not feeling good. I don't know what it is. I think it's a stomach bug. And I'm telling them all the symptoms that I'm telling you guys, right? And they're like, okay, well, you know, hopefully you get better, whatever. And if not, you know, you can call your doctor. So it was going on for a little bit too long. And then I started to notice that I had a little bit of bleeding in my nose. Now, it wasn't so much where it was like dripping out. It was a very slow bleed. And it was like, you know, getting dried up in my nose. Like when I would wake up in the morning, I'm like, okay, this is weird. I called my doctor. I said, yeah, sure, we can take you in for tomorrow. You know, we're ready for you and all that stuff. So what happened? I went to treatment that day. I told all the staff, I'm like, yo, I'm not feeling good, but I made an appointment with my doctor tomorrow. And they're like, oh, that's great. You know, maybe we can find out what's going on with you. And I was like, yeah, you know, because this is getting kind of old. And so, you know, they put me on whatever. About 30 minutes into the treatment, I vomited. And then like maybe another 30 minutes later, I was just like, I don't want to be here, I just want to go to sleep. And some people do sleep during treatments, but I was like, oh, I'll just get through this. I'm gonna go home, relax. I'm gonna see the doctor tomorrow. So next thing I knew, a couple hours later, I woke up in the ER. I noticed I had Band-Aids, two Band-Aids on my fingers. So I was like, okay, what happened? Or the attendant from the ER came in. He's like, hi, we think you had a stroke. I mean, in my mind, I'm like, please, a stroke? I only had one instance of a blood clot, which I did talk about in my lupus video here. You guys can check it out. And that was like the only time that I ever had any sort of issue, and it was dissolved and rectified before anything had gotten a chance to happen. So, and that was, how long ago was that? Let's just talk about that happened in 2006. Okay, so that was a long time ago. So he gave me some medicine to take, and then he asked me some questions. He asked me what my name was, where I lived, all that other stuff. But when he asked me what year it was, I had a little trouble. I was like 2022. He's like, it's 2023. And I was like, oh, I was so like embarrassed. I'm like, I know I'm smarter than this. Like, that's like the easiest question in the world. I couldn't get it. So they're like, yeah, we're gonna keep you for observation, and we'll have you get an MRI and everything. So I was like, all right, cool, So they got me from the emergency bed, the hospital bed. They brought me up. I noticed I felt very like stiff. And I was like, well, I don't know, maybe it's because I haven't eaten since yesterday, because I had no appetite and I didn't get any of the drinks. I don't really eat until after I leave treatment. During the night, one of the nurses, she was like the sweetest nurse that I've ever had in my entire experience, in my entire health experience. She was really awesome. She ordered my food for me. They don't do that for you. But she was so cool. She was so sweet. Are you comfortable? Do you need extra blankets? Da, 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 da. I'm like, this is the way it's supposed to be, right? So she said, have you taken a COVID test? And I was like, well, I haven't taken one in like a year, but and she's like, do you think you have COVID? I'm like, I don't know. It feels like a stomach bug. And next thing I know, I'm here. And she's like, well, would you mind taking a COVID test? And I said, no, I don't mind at all. Let's do it. I pulled the mask down and I'm like this, scrunching like, oh, because I don't like the stick up the nose. It's the tears are coming down and everything. And then she's, it's a rapid test. So she's like, well, it'll be ready in a couple minutes. You're waiting together. And it's like, she's like, yeah, it's positive. I'm like, really? Listen, I had no idea. Like I said, I thought I had a stomach bug. Coughing, it was like very sparse. Like, it felt like, okay, if you're a little bit dry and you need something to drink, that sort of thing. So it wasn't like constant coughing all day, all night. Otherwise, I would have suspected it and would have, ran to get the test quicker. But I didn't because that's not what I thought I had. And that's why I was so shocked to be in the ER. So anyway, with all that aside, she told the doctors, and the doctors immediately started me on all the antibiotics and the Zpack, which is like the zinc and a bunch of stuff. They also increased my prednisone from 5 milligrams to 10 milligrams. And they also stopped my immunosuppressants. As you all know, if you watch the lupus video or know anything about lupus, a lot of people, we do have to take immunosuppressants besides, let's say, prednisone. So for me, it's been Cellcept. It seems to be working fine. A lot of people like it, don't like it. Let me know in the comments below if you do or don't. So they took me off of the Cellcept. I wasn't on any of the blood pressure medicines due to the kidneys because my blood pressure was already really low. It was around like 90s, 100s. It was like hovering over 90s to 100. So that's kind of low, right? And I don't run low. I usually run normal. So it was a concern. So they didn't want to give me blood pressure because that's what it's for, to regulate. And since it's already low, no. They found out that my electrolytes were really off. So I'm not sure if it was because of the COVID that did it or because I didn't really want to eat. Whatever the reason was, my electrolytes were off. And considering from what the techs had told me after I recovered and everything, that I was basically unresponsive. So I was like staring off into space. And, you know, they were asking me like, put your hand up, whatever. I wasn't doing that. And they knew something was wrong because I like to talk and, you know, crack jokes and, you know, see how everybody's doing, just overall life stuff, you know. And they're like, no, she's a little too quiet. And that's when, you know, so the person that told me, they noticed that the emergency crews had come in and they took the blood sugar, because when people are unresponsive or pass out or whatever on the dialysis, they either suspect stroke, low blood sugar, or you know, maybe a virus or something. And so that's what it was. So back to the hospital, I got the MRI. Everything was clear. Everything was clear. There was nothing wrong with my brain. Everything was clear. They didn't see any, notice anything that has to do with any blood clots or anything like that nature. So that was great. I was like, well, that's what I expected, right? Because things have been like really well, except for the COVID. So I did the treatments of the antibiotics for 3 days, and then I was free to go. I wasn't on any oxygen, so I didn't have any breathing issues. It might have been a little bit of shortness of breath, but it wasn't enough where like I was like, oh my gosh, you know. I think the shortness of breath, I thought, well, I'm not getting any of my nutrients. I'm not drinking, I'm not eating. I've been fasting for like over 12 hours. Like, you know, I'm thinking more I was low on energy than anything else. It wasn't like when I tried to breathe and it was painful. It was nothing like that. So so the ultimate diagnosis when I left the hospital was, can you believe this? COVID pneumonia. So I think maybe the nosebleed was like kind of connected to that, because that's part of the respiratory system. And yeah, so I had to finish the round of antibiotics. I had to finish I think it was like 10 days. 10 days on prednisone for 10 milligrams, and then bring it back down to the 5 that I was already on. And also, I had to go back on the Cellcept. And then the nephrologist that I have seen in the clinic like every couple of weeks, you know, he would help me to monitor the blood pressure medicine, because that is connected to the kidneys, of course. So, you know, when the kidneys aren't working, they're not able to help regulate your blood pressure. I noticed I lost 10 pounds. I was very, very upset about that, because as a lot of you know, I was already on a weight gain journey. I have gained all the 10 pounds back, believe it or not. I gained it back in like a month, because I was so mad. And it was the hardest thing for me to eat more, you know, because I wasn't a big like stuff myself person like ever in my life. So I had to eat more. I began taking the supplements, the protein supplements for the kidney patients and everything. So all of that in combination helped, as well as no more virus, of course. So I did that. A week after the hospital visit, right? I had to go see my doctor. And so this is the interesting part. I saw my doctor and she's like, oh my goodness, I'm so glad you're better. I heard you were in the hospital and you couldn't come, da da da. And she said, and I was sick too with the COVID. I was in the house. I lost 10 pounds. I was like, oh, really? Because I was wondering why she kind of looked like, she didn't look like herself, but she was tired. So she had all the same symptoms. She said that there was a patient that came into the room before me when I had initially seen her for like a routine visit. And that patient was also complaining about stomach issues and having a stomach bug or something. And all of us ended up with the same type of COVID, whatever that COVID was. So if you know or have heard or whatever, please let me know which strain of COVID that was, right? So let's talk about the COVID aftercare. Besides my, gaining my weight back and eating much better. My labs have been great. I was able to see my rheumatologist. It was already pre-scheduled, so this was like perfect timing. I seen my rheumatologist a week after I seen my doctor for the follow-up. And I told them, I said, listen, I had finished all my antibiotics. I was in the hospital with COVID. I don't know if this will affect lupus in any way, but let me know, or just keep that in mind when you take the labs. So if you see anything crazy. And she's like, actually, I don't think it's really gonna affect it. And guess what? It didn't. It didn't. There was nothing wrong with the whole lupus thing. In fact, like I said before, it was either in remission or really, really close to the remission area. And that still hasn't changed up to this day, which is great. You know, it turned out that I ended up likely getting the COVID from the doctor's office, and it was a unique type of symptoms. It wasn't out of breath, coughing all day, can't breathe, nothing. It wasn't even like that. It was a total like stomach bug experience. So if you have had an experience of COVID similar to how I had it, please let me know in the comments. I need to hear this because I haven't heard too many people with this type of COVID. And also just remember to take care of yourselves. And until next time.